Hi, lady. Welcome back to the Lioness Method podcast for female business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders who are passionate about growing their leadership skills, building amazing teams, and solving real life problems with a growth mindset. I'm your host, Narissa Sue, and today we have Elizabeth Di Cristo, and she is a functional medicine certified health coach, and she sets out to inspire women, and specifically women over 40. I think we have a few of those listening, at least one or a couple right here, to take back their life and vitality by getting to the root cause of their overall health. Health and wellness has been in Elizabeth's world for the last decade and has evolved as soon as she turned 30. Elizabeth's career was mainly in the apparel corporate world, a career that was not sustainable. And in the midst of her starting her own health journey, she experienced some burnout. Taking on a mind body approach, Elizabeth started incorporating optimal nutrition, meditation, journaling, daily workouts, and movement, and practicing setting boundaries, all which helped her thrive in everyday life. Elizabeth started building her own business in her 40s and offers her services as a health coach to help high achieving and high performing entrepreneur females 40 to 60 years old who need to operate at peak state in order to meet the high demands of corporate, family, and social life, an area in which she is really familiar with. She's a host of an alternative health and wellness podcast called The Root of Our Health, which ties in with her mission of changing behaviors by empowering entrepreneurial women in their 40s and beyond to know their self-worth. Amazing. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure.
Wonderful. No, I am so excited to dive in and just learn more about all of the wonderful things that you offer. And I know that the lady listening to this podcast is really going to appreciate your insights as a woman who has lived through the corporate jungle and made it out on the other end to tell the story. So tell us a little bit about who you serve and how you serve them.
Yes, thank you so much for asking. I serve women over 40s. So this can be, 40s, 50s, 60s, midlife. And I serve the women over 40 who are high achieving. So these are women who are go-getters, they're in the corporate sector or they're entrepreneurs themselves. And the reason why I serve these women is because they experience stress and burnout because we take it all on. I'm a woman in my 40s and I know a lot about that. We take on everything in our lives and things shift, our hormones shift when we get to this age. And when we're piling things on as we age, our bodies change at the same time. So that's an additional stress. So I like to speak from my experience and speak to these women. They're not alone, and there is definitely help out there.
Amazing. No, I love that. And I think there's such a great need for that because just like you said, things change when we hit 40, right? I'm going on 44 this year, and I experienced the same burnout in the corporate world. And I would also call it kind of an awakening as well, right? Did you experience kind of an awakening because you were like, oh, wow, life cannot go on this way and there's got to be a better way to live, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, in my midst of my burnout, I was actually on my own health and wellness journey, which was crazy at the time. So I took it upon myself to, at the time, work out and eat better, eat for a longevity. And because of that, because of the positive changes in my life, which was, also it helped my cognition. So I was doing great at work and I got promoted. Now that promotion actually was a detriment to my health because the promotion actually was, I needed to step it up a little bit, which means I needed to add more hours of work to my day. And at the time, I was communicating with overseas vendors. So I was on very, very early when they woke up or they were going to sleep. And I was on very, very late when they woke up. So it was, kind of always on, and then always in meetings, and never time for myself. So it kept going and going and going. And obviously, when you keep going in that chronic stress, that's when you get to that burnout. And it was in my own understanding that I'm trying to be healthy on one hand, and then all of a sudden my job is saying, no, you can't be healthy on the other hand. And you just have to come to a point where like, my health is a little bit more important. So I stepped away.
And I loved even in your bio how you talked about setting really good boundaries and saying no. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So as I stepped away and as I was trying to figure out, not just what I wanted to do in my life, but how I wanted to live, right? So even if I got into a corporate environment, which I did again, but I made it a point to where I said, you know what? I need my mornings. So I got up early, but I also did meditations because as I, last 3 or 4 years, I really got into meditation. And I also worked out in the morning. So I used to work out after work because I was like, I'm never going to do the mornings. I can't do mornings. But then I shifted because I felt that having that morning routine of not only meditating, getting starting the day in a quiet space, but also moving your body. So I would have those non-negotiables set up for me to where, if you wanted me to start at a certain time, I will make that happen. But you can't ask me to start any earlier because I'm not giving up what is helpful in my life and in my health. So that is why I got those non-negotiables. And then same thing, like during the day, I need to get up, get walking, So it's owning your day and how you can set yourself up to say no and how to understand how to say no. That is a trick thing because we as women, especially women over 40, want to say yes to everything. We just want to take it on because we feel bad when we're saying no. We feel bad. We feel like
and I think we have a little bit of that superwoman complex too,
exactly.
Right?
Yes. No, exactly that. We want to take everything on because we want to be that caretaker. And so when it comes to saying no, it takes a little bit of work and also a little bit of self-understanding, and then self-care and self-love.
I love that. Have you heard of the miracle morning, the savers strategy?
I heard of it. I don't know exactly what it is. So I would love to hear more about it.
Oh, it's really similar to what you're describing. And so basically, the Miracle Morning is a great book, and it talks all about how to set up your morning for success. And the Saver method is waking up in silence, starting distraction free, so you're not grabbing your cell phone.
Nice.
And then A is for affirmation, so doing some affirmation work, prayer, meditation. And then the V is for visualization, which you also mentioned. So this is why I was like, oh, this sounds exactly like this. And then exercise, moving your body, having at least 20 minutes of movement. And then taking time to read, because I know all the leaders out there, they probably have at least 2 or 3 books on their nightstand, right?
Yes. Actually, yeah, no, I was just going to, go on top of that. Yes, I read. I'm just reading, I think Gabrielle Bernstein's book, her latest one, Judgment Detox. So yeah, reading is key, definitely.
I'm going to write that down. Write that down, ladies. Judgment Detox.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
And the last one was scribe, so journaling. So yes. Yeah, so do all those things kind of apply to some of your methodologies?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, and journaling definitely key too, because it's when we have our thoughts going on, 100 miles an hour in our mind, we need to kind of release them. Whether they're stressful thoughts, whether they're to-dos, whether they're, what's going on in the day, or just maybe being grateful. We got to release it, and pen to paper journaling that, it has a powerful impact, because it's kind of like whatever you have in your mind is going through your hand onto paper, and it just releases it. And then you read it and you understand, again, whatever you write about, you read it, and it's like, wow, that, I thought of that, like, or I'm going through this and this is what helps me go through it. It's I actually used it when my dad passed 3 years ago. It was my healing process, because I got out what I was feeling when I couldn't get it out in any other way. So it's just definitely a powerful tool to have, in addition to everything else that you read off. Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know there's probably the woman listening right now is most definitely experienced some loss at, if you're over 40 years old, and you've definitely had some loss. And we are getting to that age, unfortunately, where we are watching our parents, age gracefully, and kind of get on in their years. So there's a lot of challenges there that I think women can identify with you about, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, and just kind of switching gears a little bit, because I'm really curious about maybe some of the challenges that you had even jumping out there, because it's a big switch. Like, you have to honor yourself for jumping out of the corporate world and saying, I'm gonna go and make it my new mission to help women. But I know that you said that this is something that you've always done. You're just now transitioning into a service that you're providing. But it's always been in your heart and something that you've actively done. So what are some challenges that you had to overcome to get your business started?
Yes. Structure. Because when you're in that corporate world, you have that structure of knowing when to get up, knowing when you have to get to work. And, maybe your day is not structured out all the time, but it is those projects, those tasks that will get your job done. And as an entrepreneur, and right now as a solopreneur, it's like you're juggling all these tasks, and it's like, oh my gosh, when am I going to do this one? Or, when do I have this one? And your time, I've noticed, kind of goes in all over the place. Meaning, just example, I talk about exercise in the morning and boundaries, right? I knew I had a project that I had to get done for tomorrow, and I knew I had other things on my schedule today. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to not exercise in the morning, and I'm just going to take a short walk in the afternoon, because I have to get this done at like 6 or 7 o'clock. I have to start it. So whereas before I wouldn't even open an email, do anything until I got to work, which was around 9 o'clock. So it's kind of figuring out that it's not always going to be, 9 to 5, and you shut down at 5. It's going to be, okay, I need to get this done in order for me to meet a client tomorrow, or prep for this interview tomorrow, or look at your week and find out, what do I have to do to prepare myself for success? And that could take all day. It could take into 9 o'clock. But again, having that understanding of your own health and wellness, that's what brings me back to cutting it off at certain times. It's just kind of finding that that balance of timing, really.
I love that. And I think an amazing practice that I learned from one of my mentors was writing down, 3 things that you want to accomplish, that you want to accomplish, not that you have to do or you must do, but things that you want to get accomplished for the day when you first wake up in the morning. And then before you go to bed, reviewing to see, what you've actually done, and then making a new list for the morning, kind of anticipating your day again. Because as we were talking about before, we were talking offline a little bit, that there's so many distractions. And we met on Clubhouse, which is an amazing platform.
Yeah.
But the notifications come in all day long about these great conversations to have, or different social media things. So it's really easy to get distracted and pulled out of your day when you're in leadership.
Yeah, exactly that. Because it's, when you're starting out, you want to be noticed and you want to be out there and you want, all of these collaborations and all of these, kind of getting my name out there, as who I am. And so it's kind of like having FOMO. It's like, oh my gosh, I should be in this room because I would make a great impact and people would follow me and then blah, 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 blah. But, as I mentioned before, it's like I can be so much out there, but I need to understand how to give, like, what is my value? If I don't work on my value, if I don't constantly work on what I can give as far as value, which is creating or calling people, doing that, what good is it? I could collaborate all day and all night, but how do I give that value to that client who, then hops on the call? I'm lost.
No, I love
Yeah.
that. And it 100% is all about providing value. And I think also as coaches, one of the biggest thing is also having the end in mind before you even start. So knowing what the end game is, like if you're going to be in a clubhouse room, then knowing your audience that you're going to be speaking to and how you're going to connect with them, how you're going to get them on a call to serve them. And then once you get them on the call, like what are you closing them on, right? Like what is the end game?
Right.
Yeah, and then kind of sorting through our day to see if things are in alignment so we can reach the people we truly want to serve. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are some practices that you do that help you stay inspired and maintain your clarity for what you do working with women?
Oh, that's a great question. I always go back to my why. And it's more of a personal why. So it's more of a how I was, my history, not only my health history, but my family health history. So it's encompassing like what I went through as a child, as a teenager, going into now in my 40s. And then taking into account that my family history, my mom has all of these health issues. My dad passed away from cancers, and then family. And they all, like a lot passed away in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so it's been to where it's not too late. That is what I keep telling my clients, the people that I talk to. It's never too late to change your health, and you have the power and the control to do so yourself. And the reason why I say that over and over is because I did it myself. I didn't have any diagnosis outside of adrenal fatigue or even eating disorders, but it's more or less, understanding that your lifestyle, how you live, you have control over that. Mm-hmm. So having that control and having that knowledge of understanding good health, just because you have a family history of cancer or, breast cancer, I'm not thinking about that. I'm understanding that I can control what I can, what I put in my mouth, what I do on a daily basis, what I put in my mind as well. And those daily actions that I do, I want to spill out into the women that I help, because I want to see women over 40s, thriving, and not have to look down on being 40, on being midlife, and having menopause, and like, oh, great, now my life is over. It's not. It's never too late.
Yeah, I love that, because I think what you're saying translates to every phase and every stage of our life has so much beauty in it. If we just are looking at it with the right lens and with the right support and information to help us transition through these things.
Yes, right? Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is about adaptability. And it sounds like you've had to wear many hats. And so what role has adaptability played in your success so far?
Well, that I have thought, and I know that I adapt very, very well in every situation. And I don't know, I have some fears in certain areas, but the fear I don't have is going out there and doing it. For some reason, I don't have that fear. So I adapt when things come my way. Like, I've moved 5 times now to different states. So I adapt in my environment well. I adapt when I get into a new role. I adapt when things are given to me that I have no clue of what to do. It's figuring out. And I love the book that Marie Forleo writes, and I quote it all the time. Everything is figure outable.
I love that.
Right.
Everything is figure
outable. Right. So she, that's what her mom has told her. That's what that's her mantra. And I think that's something that we all can live by, because it is. It's not, nothing is hard unless we make it hard. Mm-hmm. So it's more or less, we put all these thoughts in our minds of what ifs, or I can't do this because, well, no, if an issue is set in front of you, and if you're put in a place where it's uncomfortable, figure it out. And that's how I learned to adapt. And I learn. And that's the other thing, is learning. So I'm always constantly learning. I think it's one of my strengths that I've noticed is always be learning. And, take that learning, obviously, and put it into action. But when you have that knowledge of not only of what you're talking about, but knowledge of yourself, I think you can adapt in any environment. So that's what I bring along with me in being adaptable.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. And especially about it, I think you're kind of touching on mindset as well, right? So
yes.
Is that something that you also work a lot with your clients?
Yes. Key. Huge mindset. Again, women over 40, we tend to, and I think everybody, I'm not like literally just saying women over 40, but I think, we have a tendency to doubt ourselves, to belittle ourselves, or to not even take care of ourselves. So we have these talks, these negative talks that we put in our brain every day, in our minds every day. And those talks, those negative beliefs go into action. So it's that negative action after that negative talk. So what I like to do is, I like to pull out the what they are great at, and pull out their core, their strengths, and tell them who they are and how they shine. Because once they hear that, I think that kind of empowers them to take a better, a positive action, positive step. But it is, an everyday thing that we have to do. And sometimes daily, like hourly, sometimes we got to do it every 5 minutes, if anything, hopefully not. But it's doing
it probably depends on the day, right? Because
right, exactly,
every woman can relate. Like some days that voice is just so loud, and other days we're like, you know what, I think I got this. I feel pretty good about myself today.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You gotta know how you feel in that moment, how you feel in that day. And if things are kind of going at you, how does it bounce off of you? Does it, or are you taking it all in and reaping those negative thoughts and negative actions? So, yeah.
No, I love that. It's all a mindset game. I listened to Reverend Michael Beckwith, and he always says mind over chatter. He's like, it's not mind over matter, it's mind over chatter, because we always have that negative self-talk in the back. So So
Yes.
managing which voice you're going to listen to and how to amplify the positive.
Yes. And it's like working out too. It's like a muscle. We
Absolutely.
have to, work that muscle every day in order to get it stronger. So that's why we have to work on it every day.
I love
Yeah.
that. And speaking of getting stronger, as a wealth or I'm sorry, health and wellness coach. I almost
Yeah.
said a wealth coach, but it
Well,
is
health
wealth.
is wealth.
Health is
Yes.
your wealth. Yes.
Exactly.
A little slip of the mouth there. But what are some of your top tips for managing stress and burnout? Because I know that's your
Yes.
area of specialty.
Yes. So we all have that stress, and everybody has stress. It's either acute stress or it's chronic stress, or it could be both, depending on the situation. But I think we all have that chronic stress in our daily lives, and we can never get rid of it. So, anybody who says how to get rid of stress is lying to you. What we can do is manage it. And there are definitely ways to do that. And it's up to also an individual and how their lifestyle is. Because I can say, what I'm about to say, and sometimes it can resonate with somebody or not. But there are a ton of things you can do. First off, I like to say breathe. So that's the easiest,
That's my favorite.
right? The reason is because when we get into that stress response, that fight or flight or freeze, our breathing is shallow. So when when our heart rate, pumps up and so our breathing is definitely shallow, or we don't breathe at all. So when we stop and when we breathe and, just take the 10 deep breaths through through our bellies up into out and out our mouth, we can reset our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calm, the rest and digest. So that's the main thing. If you got your breathing down, you can get your stress under wraps or managed. But if you want to add on to that, meditation is always great. I'm not asking for newbies to do 20 minutes because that's hard. Start out 5 minutes. Start out small. We don't want to over empower the meditation and then have it not work for you. So whatever works for you, do it. Walking outside in nature, if possible, but definitely walking outside, getting the vitamin D. And other things is exercise, again, movement. So if you can't go for a walk, do at least maybe stretching or some high intensity if you can. And then if you can, get rid of that stress, or stressor, I should say, meaning whatever is that stress in your life, if you can. Now, if it's a job and, if you're trying to leave that job, perfect. Because that's what I was, going through as well, is I knew that I was transitioning. I was still stressed and not happy in that job, but I knew that I was transitioning. So there are toxic things that are in our lives. It could be toxic products. It could be toxic environment. It could also be toxic people. So these also,
I hear that, sister. I think everybody's got some toxic people. You got to Marie Kondo that stuff, right? With people, places, and things.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's, and again, we always want to be the nice people and the nice person, like, oh, I just want to be nice to that person. Well, how are they making you feel? How is your health impacted by their toxicity of their, either taking from you or, doing what they're doing to you to harm you. So just cutting it off if possible. I know it's hard, but it's also your health. And so getting rid of those toxic, not only people, but the toxic products. And if you can do like cleaner air, cleaner water, stuff like that. Again, ultimately, we want to get rid or lower the stress in your life. So if you have some stress in certain areas, See in other areas what you can, release, and then
Mhm.
lower and manage that stress. So those are like the, my top 4 or 5, I believe, that I would put out there to help manage stress. Yeah.
Yes, I love all of those. And I don't know, I'm actually a breathwork facilitator, so the breath is something that I work with a lot. And so
Yes.
I love everything that you were saying. You're speaking my language about the fight or flight and just calming down that parasympathetic, because that really is a game changer to bring clarity and calmness just into the body. And you can use your breath any time, right? Because it's
Yeah.
always available. Like,
Yes, it's free. It's
it's
there.
free. It's there. Yeah,
Yeah, no, and but it's funny because people think, oh, it's so simple, but nobody does it.
exactly.
It's simple, but nobody does it. So I think, yeah, just that simple breath work.
Mhm.
At least that first step would be a good step.
And it always cracks me up because ultimately I talk to a lot of people about breath work and people are like, oh, that seems kind of weird or scary. And I'm like,
Woo woo.
but are you popping Xanax, to
Yeah,
ease your anxiety? Like, I think it's scarier to me. It's scarier to me to pop a bunch of pills to change my state than to
yeah,
just work with my breath, right? Because
right,
it's free, it's natural, it's not going to change my state, right? The long term. Well, in a positive way, it will, right?
right,
But there's
right.
no negative side effects,
No,
and I don't have to buy it in a bottle. It's literally just I'm breathing
right.
right now.
Right, right. And I really hope that people listening to this, take that into consideration.
Hmm.
Because like you said, popping that Xanax or taking the medications that are not needed when we have our own bodies are our medication. Our own bodies are capable of helping us, not hurting us. So that's where, like, I also can get into gut health and inflammation because it ties into the stress. But our inflammation is, or our, excuse me, immunity is in our gut. So if we take care of our stress, of our breathing, we can take care of our gut health, which then takes care of our immunity, which, and it works itself. We
Hmm.
have that system in us. And I just want people to understand that, we don't have to always rely on prescriptions or drugs. They're good for certain things, obviously, but for those acute, those things, the stressors, like you said, anxiety, we can take care of themselves ourselves if
Hmm.
we do it the right way, obviously, following a
Exactly.
practitioner.
Exactly. That's why it
Yeah.
would be so helpful to work with a wellness coach, because then you have somebody there to support you who's been through the process and
Yes.
who knows how to help you make friends with your body again. Because that's really what we're talking about ultimately, right? Is
Right.
getting to know yourself, getting to know your body, and making friends. Because I think society will tell us otherwise. Oh, we need to nip and tuck and erase the wrinkles and do this with our hair and wear this outfit. It's like, no, maybe just breathe and, get a
Yeah.
little support on getting back on track.
Well,
So,
and that's, you said it. It's the stress, again, the stress put on us to look a certain way, to be a certain way. And it's the understanding that we got to get back to nature. We got to get back to who we are as a human being, as a spiritual being.
mhm.
And it's, how we got there, I don't know. To where we were told, you got, like you said, you got to inject things, you got to, like, look a certain way. And you can do that with food and with, your mind and your breathing. You
Mhm.
can age in reverse by
Mhm.
using those things.
Well, you're speaking my language, girl. Tell us all
There you
about
go. There
it.
you go. Yes.
I love that. Well, I know that we're coming up on our time, so I want to be really mindful of your time. And I so appreciate you spending all this time with us today, sharing your gifts. But I would love to close with a question about what your biggest win has been recently. I always like to leave it on a high note.
Love it. Um, oh my goodness. You know what? My biggest win. So I've had some, and I talked about this before, like some fears, right? So I've had this fear of getting in front of a camera for some reason. And it's not just like the Zooms, and it's more or less the lives, like the Facebook lives or the Instagram lives. And sometimes feeling like an imposter. So that imposter syndrome kind of creeps up, right? Well, I have actually created a series of adrenal fatigue, and I talk about that. And I was like, all right, I got to do a live. So I'm doing an Instagram live starting today through Friday on adrenal fatigue. And I did it this morning, and I was like, oh my God, this isn't hard. Like, this is fun. So it's kind of, again, getting out of your head. And we all have it. We're all going through it, but it's understanding that what we put in our minds is making it harder than it needs to be. So my win is getting through that hurdle of, that talk of it's so difficult when it was so much fun. So that's one, and the other one is, my podcast is I think it's 7 months right now, but I'm getting a lot of great people on there. I've just interviewed DC Glenn, who I'm not sure if you're familiar of, the duo group Tag Team. So to reference, so the Geico commercial, Scoop, there it is. So he was one of them. So yeah, and I mean, such a wonderful guy, and that was like my win because it was one of these, like not an A-lister, but somebody that's out there that's known that is on my show, and it was really nice to have. So yeah, those are my two wins.
Awesome. I love that. I love those. Those are both amazing. And
Thank you.
yes, I think it is just about doing things that are outside of our comfort zone every day. I
Yes.
think, and even I think as podcasters, we have to really put our stuff out there. It's a whole other level. We're like, oh my gosh, people are going to hear my voice. Are they even, what does my voice sound like recorded? And
Right.
just totally knocking that out of the way, because at the end of the day, we have a message to deliver, right? So it's not about us. It's about the message and about the people that we're serving as part of our life mission, our purpose on the planet, to really serve and to be about being there for other people and sharing our information in a way that is helpful for the women listening to help her move forward, right? Moving that
Yes.
needle forward.
And can I add to that actually?
Of course.
Because you bring up a great point, and there's a reason. So I started again 7 months ago, and I was actually in a different area, and for some reason I have to get this out. I have to get this out. So I set up shop everything on my kitchen counter. So I was in my kitchen on my counter recording. And the reason why I did that was exactly what you said, because I felt that if I didn't do this now, I would do a disservice to my audience, to the message I want to get out. And it was at that time, it was like, I got to do it now, because I'm never going to get that perfect moment or that perfect studio. So I just put that perfectionism to the side, and I just did it. And I since moved, but at the time I was like, look, I'm on this, tiny little counter, but I'm doing my thing. So
But
you
you're
can
doing
too.
it.
Well,
Yes,
that's my hope for people, that they don't wait for that perfect moment, because it's never going to be perfect.
exactly. You can't wait until you have enough money, enough time, there's enough resources, you're the right
Exactly.
weight, right? You have the right
Exactly.
job. It's right now.
Right.
It's right now. It's absolutely when you decide that you are ready to make that massive change in your life, right?
Right.
So
Exactly. Yes.
beautiful. I love that. Well, I want to thank you again for spending all of this time sharing with us today. How can our audience reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yes. I am on, so I'm on Instagram. It's Elizabeth.Di Cristofano. I have a website. It's my first and last name.com. So ElizabethDiCristofano.com. And then Clubhouse, as we met. And I'm under at FM, so Functional Medicine FM Health Coach. That's pretty much it. I mean, I can be, accessed through emails as well. I'm not really on Facebook a lot, so I wouldn't kind of reach me there. But those other ones, you could definitely reach me.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And I apologize because I think I said your name incorrectly when I introduced you.
It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. You said it, in the beginning, or like the beginning of it. So it's all good. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, yes. And please always feel free to correct me if I'm saying it incorrectly.
It's okay.
But again, thank you so much. It was so lovely getting to know you and your business. And I know that the lady listening will definitely check out your information on Instagram. And I would also like to invite you, lady who's listening, to join my Breathwork Circle. I have a virtual Breathwork Circle every Wednesday night. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can sign up by clicking the show notes. I'll drop the link in there, as well as Elizabeth's information. But you can go to breathewithriss.com to sign up for the next circle. And so just come be in community. It's a great way to relax, just like we were talking about earlier, just get into that calm place of clarity so you can really operate at your best. All right, until next time, we want to thank you so much for listening through all the way to the end, and we'll see you next Tuesday. So bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.